if you looked at what we did in the day, it was all really nice. You know, lovely, like creative morning, doing loads of like crazy shit with paints and cardboard, and everyone's having a great time. It's really fun. And then in the afternoon, they were really like playing together with Lego for ages. And so I was like, okay, cool. I reckon I can probably, like, in the same room as them, do a bit of like sewing. So I was literally looking for the stuff to set it all up and thinking, oh, they're really happy. I'll just go upstairs and get the stuff. And then Vida comes up going, you need to come down now because Nina was really sad because her thing smashed. And, you know, it's just like, oh, fucking hell. It's just that moment. As soon as you think you can do something, they're like, no, excuse me, no. We literally want you to stand there doing nothing, waiting for us to need you. Okay.
Oh, I saw a really good. Oh, I'm going to try and find it now. Because I saw someone had shared in one of the Forest School groups. I'm into the podcast now, just mentally. So, Tom Richardson was in nursery management today, and he won the category of Forest School for Nursery Magazine Awards. Right, he runs a Forest kindergarten. Disagree with some of the thing, but there's a really good bit where he's written that he thinks leaders should be on tap, not on top. So then he expands it into, you know, you should be there, ready to provoke and question and do whatever, but not on top of the play. And I was like, oh, on tap, not on top is quite a nice. He's just over the border into Cornwall. It says he runs 5 nurseries. Or he's part of 5 nurseries, which is...
it's not naturally learning, is it?
It is naturally learning, yeah.
Yeah.
He's got a big beard as well. He's got a beard and hair, which made me, you know, it's not fair. You're not allowed both.
Well, if you had both, then you'd be too similar. So, you know, you need a different look. Yes, but I think that's very true, and that is basically what. But
that's draining. That's draining. As being on tap is draining.
That's exactly it. It is exhausting because you get it's completely selfless. Do you know what I mean? Like it's more rewarding. This is definitely true. It's harsh, but it's more rewarding in a lot of ways to do it for other people's children than your own, because it's just that one step removed.
You get money.
Yeah, you get money, obviously, and you get more feedback because you're doing it, like, it's more special for the children that you're working with. So they provide you more immediate feedback in terms of like spontaneously kind of saying this is fun, or do you know what I mean? Like, it's more of an event for them. And also you get feedback from their families where they'll say, oh yeah, so-and-so the other day, they loved that thing. They came home and talked about it. And you get paid for it. And you're usually doing it with somebody else. So.
And I think it's partly as well, it's more content, isn't it? Is that you are bringing the content, if you like, of your experiences and ideas and worldview, and then a child is bringing their experiences and content and worldview, and what you're doing is going, oh, I didn't know about that thing, but like when you're all together all the time, essentially it's like, did you know? Yeah, I was there. Oh, and did you know? Yeah, I was there when we watched it as well. And I know I was there. Like, there's no differentiating at the moment between your experiences and anyone else's experience in your household, so you've got very little to share and converse with.
Absolutely.
It's all homogenized, and that is hard.
I do. It's obviously easier outside anyway from everyone's perspective, but I kind of feel like when we're outside in a natural place, then I feel like I do have a bit more to offer in that regard, especially with another child staying with us who I don't see all the time. It's like, oh, there's this flower, or there's that bird, or whatever, and people do actually go, oh right, okay, I didn't know that.
I think that's one of the things, isn't it? You realise, I mean, we've said for a long time, haven't we, that the environment is one of the teachers, and you realise how much input that teacher was giving when you strip it away completely and you go like, oh, just be with someone. You're like, well, but they haven't got that thing to climb, or that thing to see is growing, or that, you know, they can't notice that. You know, oh God, I'm actually rubbish at this.
Yeah.
Or you know, you're not used to going from. It's almost like you're working constantly from a running start. You're just arriving
Yeah.
at a wheel that's already turning. Whereas, do you know what I realised today? I haven't done the maths, but let me do the maths now quickly. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, roughly. Okay, so roughly my routine before this was waking up at 4:30 and going to the gym and driving to the woods and doing a bit of prep and all of that stuff. But that's all solo, right? Nobody's there at 4:30 when I go to the gym. Nobody's there in the woods when I get there. So my normal routine involves waking up and it being roughly 6 hours before I talk to another human.
Wow.
That is my that is my daily routine up to now. Jesus Christ, they're there when you wake up, aren't they?
Yeah.
Holy. And that's such a, you know, it's not like, I wake up at 8 and then I start working at, you know, I wake up at 7, get everybody ready and I start work at 9. Like I am used to 6 hours minimum of solitary confinement a day, and I'm now on nothing.
Yeah.
Except for, you know, obviously now I'm working. I've got a very supportive wife who is dealing with. Juniper can crawl. My little girl can crawl.
I know. I saw.
She's been very excited. And now we have to put stair gates and watch her and move everything up 2 foot, which has been great.
Amazing. Yeah.
This is it's kind of fun and frustrating at the same time. You know, I think that's the thing, isn't it? With very early development, is you are very much playing catch up with yourself. Of like, oh, okay, I've just about got used to not a static baby. You know, she could sit up and she could play with a thing. That was great. She's moving now. Hang on. You know.
And you're like encouraging them and going, yeah, then they can do it. And you're like, oh shit, they can do it now. Damn it.
Well, she has a really interesting thing of like, she can crawl and will crawl, but she just needs to be crying all the time while she crawls. So she sat there, she's perfectly happy, and then she just like starts moving and is like, oh, this is horrible, this is hot. Like someone's making her do it. Is really, no one is, you know.
Yeah.
But she just has this like, so our house has this like white noise of a whining, crawling child moving around at the moment, which is another one of those things, isn't it? Have you realised that just how much sound you take in or are used to or are, you know, it's trying to find this.
I was thinking that a lot of what I'm feeling, and I'm sure lots of people are feeling right now who normally work outdoors, is like your brain chemicals completely adapting to a more indoor life. So like light levels, like air quality, temperature, all those different atmospheric conditions really affect your brain and your mood. And in the same way as it probably took me a good long while to adapt to working outdoors, it's a reversal of that process. And it's really, I think, mucking with the like chemical levels in my brain, the hormonal stuff.
That's one of my fears, I think, that once I could verbalize it, I realized that it's kind of irrational, but was that I take a lot of pride, and my ego is hung on this idea that I can be outside, I can go to the gym for 2 hours, I can then work outside for 6 to 8 hours, and that's a day. And I sort of had to have a bit of a word with myself and go, there is a good chance that you are going to have to taper your return back to work. Even if all of the sessions start back up, I need to just think about the fact that I am probably losing the ability to work as much or as long as I was working before. And, you know, I think everybody's focused on children and thinking like, a lot of people, are focused on children and going, you know, will there be a scaled back going to school, and will they take this into account? And actually, we probably need to be thinking about it for ourselves as well and going, do we, you know, everyone's a lot of people will be desperate to get earning again, but I think a lot of people might hit a wall and go, okay, I'm going to go straight back into it. And you're like, okay, well, you were working 5 days a week. Now you've not done any work for 3 months. You cannot go back to bang 5 days a week. I'm going straight back in.
Yeah, absolutely. I can remember when I started working with you in like September, didn't I? And then I started doing schools in January. And so that was my like busy time. And then it kind of scaled up about 6 months after that. And just when I started doing schools as well, I used to get on Friday, I literally could not move from the sofa. I was so tired. It was like being pregnant. I was insane. And then still doing the same routine, I just gradually didn't. I was completely fine. And now even if we have like a really like cold day in the woods or a really active day in the woods, I might be a bit tired, but nowhere near as much as I was, 4 years ago, whenever it was when I first started. So yeah, I think you're right. I think there will be a bit of a sort of shock to the system of being outside all the time. But it feels at the moment like it's like an atrophying, isn't it? It's like an atrophying of like muscles and fitness, but also of just your body adjusting to just being in a completely different environment for most of the time. And the weather's been great, obviously, and so we're going outdoors more than we might have been at this time of year. But even still, it's like, oh God, it's like weaning off of drugs, isn't it? It's almost like nature is a drug, and you're kind of like high on it all the time, and you're just like weaning off it. And there's high days and low days. And yesterday was like a low day. Even though I really liked the fact that it was raining, I looked outside and I was like, oh, this is really lovely. But even that made me want to be in the woods even more.
I wonder if that's like, what makes it difficult is, people say that actually if you can quit something cold turkey, binary, you do it and you don't. In some ways, that is easier. I have heard, I wouldn't want to belittle anyone's addictions or mental health or anything, but I have heard that mental health things like bulimia and anorexia and even sexual addictions can be really difficult, because if you're addicted to cocaine, the end result is you never take cocaine again, and so it's easy to get to that point. But if you're addicted to sex, then it's unreasonable to say you get to a point where you never have sex again, or that you never eat again. You have to eat, and equally we have to go outside, and that makes it even harder because we're still getting that little bit of like, I remember this, and oh, this is great, that euphoria of like, I know about this, and I can go for a walk, and I can do all these things, and then it's more, let's say it's difficult in a different way than just going, I no longer.
Yeah, and it reminds you, and so you're like, you're out and you see something cool, and then you're like, oh, there's no one to share this with, man. There's like no, there's no group. I know I can think of some people that if they were here, they'd be really excited by this thing that's happening.
Well, do you know what? That is a neat segue. You won't have seen this, and we can do this publicly. I'm going to apologise if you don't like what I have done, but I have put together a post on Facebook that is ways of being connected that are not damaging to the Forest School ethos, and I have put tips out to to the community, because I felt like I felt a bit of responsibility in that me and you and Nick and Charlie had that conversation before where we kind of said we shouldn't be doing craptivities and we shouldn't be doing this, and I was like, I don't know that I've been positive or proactive enough of going, this is what I believe is okay to do or is beneficial to do. And one of the things that I've written, as I said, we should still be learner led. So if we came across an activity beforehand, when we were running sessions, and you were like, that is perfect for Jimmy Jones Bimbleton, right? Yeah. Jimmy Jones Bimbleton. Yeah. And we wouldn't then go, all groups this week must do the activity. This is the only activity that's happening this week. What we'd do is we might at some point go, hey, I saw this. I wondered if Jimmy Joe Bimbleton's wants to have a a crack at it in a quiet moment. And we can still do that with those resources. We still have the access to email and to Facebook and to social media for all those children. If we see something that particularly jumps out as Jimmy Jones Bimbleton, there's no reason that we can't directly send an email to his parents or to his family and say, I remember that so and so was really into this. I wonder if that, it doesn't need to be a public display. And I think that's one of the things that I think is different from going, here's an activity you can all do where we all make this thing. Part of that is that wider social element of performance, and that is what I think sort of rubs me the wrong way. And it's that you're putting it up, and it's not possible to make enough distinction of this is not for everyone. But if you were on the receiving end of an email that said, I, the educator, I'm still thinking about your child so personally that here is an activity just for them. That's got to be better for social connection. That's got to get better for maintaining a relationship than just going, here you all are, roll a toilet roll in birdseed.
Yeah.
So I think that is a thing we can still do. If we still see a thing, there is I'm looking out my window, and in the big hedge at the back of my garden, so there are a pair of pigeons nesting in there, and we just see them like land on the top of the hedge with a big stick and then disappear into I don't know what kind of bush it is. But anyway, so it's just come in with when a dog tries to go through a fence with a stick that's too big, this pigeon is holding a stick that is maybe 12 inches and is trying to get it into the hedge and just can't quite work out. But can I read you the other things that I put on this, and we can talk them through, and you can go, oh God, you haven't put that out, have you?
Sure.
So the first one I put is that if you're going to do something, call the project Outside with Mr. or Mrs. whatever, like Outside with Gemma, or Bimbleton Primary Nature Connection, right? Because I do think we've got if you want to still be making content and still be putting that stuff out, it doesn't serve a purpose to muddy the waters even more for non-forest school people to go, but I thought forest school was those videos that you did, and I thought those things. You go, no, that was Outside with Gemma. Forest school is the sessions that we do. And I think, because I'm aware that for a lot of people, we said broadly we would talk about mental health, and I think for a lot of people, being productive right now is really important to our mental health. So I wouldn't for a second say you can't do that. That's not a way to do it. You're not allowed to make a video for your children. But I think those two things the two bits that I've just said tie together in that if you want to make a video and share it with your children, that's very different to making a massively public thing that says, I can put this activity out for all children in the UK, or worldwide even, and go, this is forest school in a garden. If you just, the slight tweak of, it's, Primary Bimbleton's Nature Connection videos, fine. Then you're not at all muddying forest school meetings, forest school ethos. I have suggested that people host a Zoom meeting with with families in their network, but I have made the point that they don't think that is a chance to do a Zoom meeting where you then go, here is how you roll birdseed around a toilet roll. That is a chance where you share what you've been doing, maybe share a book, have a chat, treating it as an equal platform rather than a webinar, all eyes on me, what must we do? These things. This is one that I have done this afternoon. Create a social hashtag. So we have a hashtag, which is COTF family, which means that people can now use that hashtag on stuff they're doing, even if I don't care if it's not outside, right? If you want to show me, so some of the kids that come to our sessions, and you want to show me that they've made breakfast for the first time, I will be just as interested in that or they've built a Lego house, right? And they want to just be like, hey, let's show Lewis and Gemma. I will still enjoy that. It doesn't have to be, we found a bug.
And some families were doing that before anyway, weren't they? Do you remember? We were getting texts and photo messages from especially children that we hadn't seen for a while, or those that we used to look after a lot and then have moved on. And parents were just sending us little texts and photos of things they'd made, which were not necessarily very forest school related. That's lovely.
And then the next point that I've put, this is the last one, kind of ties into it, which is that I think it's important that we remember that Forest School as an ethos is holistic.
Yeah.
And if you genuinely are going, I want to share resources to help families, rolling a toilet roll tube in birdseed might not be their top priority right now. If you can be, most of us are very well educated and, have these degrees or know about child development and stuff. And we probably all deep down know that one afternoon of naturecraft might not be the top priority right now. Maybe you see something about how to maintain a routine, or you see something about what to do if your children have got sensory needs while they're indoors, or something about carving out family time. Those are all just as relevant, if not more so, than, hey, does anyone want to do this tree quiz? Because you're narrowing down your niche, and you're again doing a disservice to go, Forest School is only about nature. And Forest School is about nature, but it's also about everybody as a holistic person, and going, actually, what my community needs right now is probably, a bit of news on which shops are open, or they need a bit of news about. Do you know what I mean? Those things are more of a priority, and you don't want to just be barking on about your own soapbox, standing up on your own soapbox and going, actually, excuse me, robins. Like, you want to be a three-dimensional person. And we've said before that is one of the hardest things about our jobs, is that when you're an educator in a child's life, you are privy to, and in some ways not responsible for, but you're involved in more than just the 2 hours that they come to the woods.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think it's important that we remember that now, and think, well, how can I help? If you genuinely want to help the families in your community, think about the help they need, not about the help you want to give.
Mm. Yeah, it's a bit of a balance, isn't it? It's a balance of, like you saying, if keeping busy and productive is going to help you as a person, as a human, as a practitioner, then no one should be denying you that. But you also don't want to be overloading your families with stuff that actually isn't helping them, and maybe is making anybody feel like, oh, we should be doing this. I feel like I've kind of thought this spontaneously, and then I read. Basically, the most useful thing that's been sent to me from the kids' school was a thing from the Senko a couple of days ago, and it was like a kind of mental health toolkit. And I just sort of glanced at it, and there's a section on like the words should and must. And so if you kind of tune into your interior monologue, which is another thing that I'm sure other people as well as me are experiencing, which is where you've got so much more time with the voice in your head now than when you're working. Yeah. Holy moly. So then you really listen to it, and you're like, oh, okay, what is it actually saying? And if it's going, you should be doing this, or you must do that before blah, 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 before this time, or before the end of the day, you should be. And especially like, you are knocked down, you should be being creative, you should be using this time to learn a new skill, you should be reading, you should be doing career development stuff, you should be getting in touch with the families that really miss you, and if you let that voice take over, oh my gosh, it's so like damaging and so awful. And so I'm kind of also aware of spamming nature connection-y stuff or activity stuff at families, and then making them have that should voice and go, oh god, yeah, I really should be making sure my child has more, they're missing their forest school and it's really important to them and it's a massive part of their life, so I should be providing that, I should be watching the videos from forest school and trying to recreate that for them because they're missing it, and I should be being their kind of stand-in forest school practitioner and all that kind of stuff. And so I think that's, I certainly feel that way from some of the stuff that's been sent to us from school that isn't about mental health, about just schoolwork kind of related, and I'm sure lots of parents are feeling that. So I think that's another thing to kind of bear in mind. Do you know what I mean?
We're asking parents to wear a lot of hats, and a lot of hats, not just a lot of hats for their children's sake, the role of teacher, the role of Senko, the role of whatever is being put on parents, but also we're asking parents to put on more hats for themselves in terms of just, how do you maintain a household? How do you maintain your, relationship, whatever that looks like at the moment? How do you do all of that? And,
Yeah.
We don't want to be responsible for, it's guilt tripping, isn't it? Putting it another way, it could be a massive guilt trip of, you should be doing this and you should be doing that.
Yeah. And there's that thing of kind of fitting your own gas mask first, isn't there? So, if staying productive and making some great connections with your families whilst on lockdown is really helping you mentally, and you've thought about it carefully and you want to do it, then great. But personally, for me, like, I'm thinking about our families all the time, but I am not in a place mentally where I can connect with them right now. I keep, and that's another of the should voices in my head. Like, I keep thinking, I really should hold a Zoom meeting with so and so in a group, and maybe like we could tell a story together or play a game. And I keep having that should voice in my head, and I'm imagining having those conversations, but I feel like I'm still in a grieving situation where I can't make that step right now. And hopefully in a few weeks, then I'll feel in a place where I can do it without getting too sad. And I said to you, didn't I, on the last FSA webinar, which is such a great idea, and the webinars are fab that they're happening, but I had to just log out because the conversation was about how we stay in touch with our families and our learners during lockdown, and I could quite happily listen to people speak about it, but when it came to me speaking about it, I felt like I was going to either cry or be sick. So I had to just leave. And I think it's just about like accepting where you are, isn't it, and owning those feelings of sadness and grief and anger and negativity, and going, okay, well, I feel like that. I'm not going to pretend that I'm not feeling like that and go at like plow on through and Zoom call some of our families when I'm not feeling it, because I feel like that's what I should do. I'm just going to sink into it, just let it absorb and know that it'll pass, which is really hard, but definitely I think the right thing to do if you're feeling really low is just to kind of like own that feeling and name it, and accept it, because the more you try and smother it and go, no, it's all fine, I'm I should be very lucky, like the weather's really nice, and I'm not at work, so that's great, and that's not healthy to kind of smother it over with
it's wallpapering, isn't it?
Thoughts, yeah.
It's just wallpapering over the cracks, which you're right, we shouldn't. I mean, I think that's where there might be a bit of a divide, because for some people listening, they will still be being paid by a school or by an organization, so there's an expectation that they are still doing their work, and that there's all those things, isn't there? I know it sounds very stupid to say, we are in some ways very lucky that you and I run the business ourselves, and so when we made the decision to close, we also got to make the decision about, we get entirely the decision on how much we do or don't do any more work while we're closed, but that is not a decision that everybody will have.
No.
And I think so part of why I was putting those ideas together was, I think I was possibly imagining someone who needs to still be producing something, needs to still be earning, because that is that's a massive concern for people at the moment, is earning in any way. And so that need to earn, but you don't maybe need to cut off your nose, maybe is a way of looking at it, that yes, we might survive and get some short-term benefits from making something that's, hey, for school videos, for school Zoom meetings, but actually long term we're going to suffer then, because you've got to argue back the genie's out of the bottle, if you like. And lots of people who I think it has changed a lot of people's viewpoints, and I'm not saying that it's not valid to change your viewpoint, but I think one of the things that I'm interested in is watching people who maybe 3 months ago would have had very strong views on I don't think you should be doing that. That's not forest school. I don't agree with that way of connecting with children. Probably 3 months ago, how many people could you have talked to and said, do you think children should be watching that much screen time? Would have gone, absolutely not. Screen time is the absolute devil. I would never call anything forest school that wasn't a billion weeks long and in trees that we grew. And how external forces can, I guess it's whether we're compromising or being made to compromise.
And whether that's okay or not, it's an interesting thing, isn't it? Because, and I think we're all flip-flopping between those two states of mind. And you could say that with anything, with like...
That's what I mean. That's
what... With kids learning generally.
Yeah.
Right? So those of us who weren't homeschooling before and now suddenly are, in inverted commas, I was just saying to my partner yesterday, it's like, on the one hand, you could say, oh, you know, this is an unprecedented global health like pandemic. This is not homeschooling. Therefore, we don't need to be giving ourselves a hard time about like making the kids learn anything. This is just completely unstructured, uncharted. Everyone's up in the air. This is mental. So don't worry about it. And on the other hand, you could say exactly the same and go, this is an unprecedented global situation and we have no idea how long it's going to last for. So therefore, and it might last forever, who knows? So therefore, we should be really, really thinking carefully about how we're structuring our kids' time, what our plan is for their education. And do you know what I mean? You can flip-flop between those two states of mind on a sixpence. And the same could be said for, you know, providing forest school style activities over the internet. You could go, no, we need to stay true to the ethos of forest school because when we come out the other side, we need to preserve it. I mean, it's there for a reason, and we really believe in this ethos. Or you might go, well, yeah, that is true, but this is an unprecedented situation. And so everything's a little bit different now. And you've just got to basically make the best of what you can. And if people like it, they like it. That's all good. And then we'll deal with it on the other side, you know, when we get there, because we might not get there for ages. So what do you expect? You know, not to provide any kind of nature-y videos for families, you know, for the next however many months. Like, we're missing this lovely spring, blah blah.
And it does. I mean, we've touched on it a few times, but I do think a lot of our for a lot of us who work in education and in childcare, we probably, whether we admit it or not, have a certain amount of our egos wrapped up in the idea that we have skills or knowledge to pass on, and that we are used to being, how do I put this down? I'm going to just talk, you know, we're used to having our egos massaged a bit, whether that is, you know, how, okay, I can't say this in a way that's not going to make me sound like Captain Big Head, but like at least once a week when we're running sessions, we probably have a parent come up and go and tell us that something was really amazing, or that a kid loved something, or you have a child who genuinely shows you like unadulterated joy at something you have introduced them to, or something that you have shared with them. And so having that feedback taken away from you is probably something that a lot of people are unconsciously dealing with. You know, we're
definitely, massively. I mean, I don't know if like this happened in the chat before you started kind of before recording, but I was saying that, wasn't I, about, you know, looking after one's own kids. If you've got young kids at home, you just don't get any of that shit. It's just like, even if you give them a great springboard which launches into some incredible play, like they don't give you, there's no other parents there to go, oh, look at that you did, that's really
look
cool.
at what you did, well done, clap 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 clap.
That, yeah. And the kid and your own kids don't tend to go, I love that, Gemma, thank you for playing that with me, which some of our kids honestly do, don't they? They talk like little miniature grown-ups and go, thanks, I really appreciated that, oh, I'm really learning. Or they give like little commentaries on what they're doing. They'll go like, oh, at first I was really scared to do that, but when I listened to you say that thing, or when I watched you do that thing, or you were right beside me and now I feel okay, you know, they'll give you that kind of feedback spontaneously. And your own kids don't do that. They're just like, what's for dinner? Wench. And you really have to, like, I have been finding definitely that's a thing that is missing. Like I'm the same as you. I completely thrive on those things, and unless I'm getting that feedback, especially if you're by yourself because your other half is shut in a room working from home, you're just like there with the voice in your head going, you're a dick, what are you doing, this is awful, terrible, terrible, terrible. It's very, very negative. And also it just seems very samey, and you don't really, you're riding the kind of highs and lows of the day and the vibe and the energy in a very similar way to the way you would at forest school. Like I'm definitely doing the same thing, you know, it's child led. I'm not sitting down with worksheets with my kids, I'm just not doing that. Which is exhausting and draining, as we said before. And then you get to the end of the day and it's very, very easy to not see the highs. By the end of the day you're just like, oh, what happened today? Like basically nothing. So I have heard people saying that journaling is really helping, and just writing and reflecting back, and not just in terms of like, oh, stuff did happen, but also in terms of like what you made happen in that same forest school practitioner way. So you have to be your own feedback patter on the backer type person and go, oh yeah, you springboarded them into that thing, or you really diffused that like difficult situation, or you really let them speak about how they were feeling at that point. And you could have not done that, and to kind of flip it on its head and go, okay, well, if you had behaved differently, or if you hadn't been there, what would it have been like? Probably crapper. So even if you're kind of giving yourself a hard time about it being boring or nothing really happening, if you give yourself space to reflect, like we would with our groups in the woods, but it's just you know, so whether you can just do that in your own head, or talking out loud, or while you're on a walk by yourself, or writing in a diary, as I've tried to do, I think that has really helped, or talking about it to somebody else if they'll listen. Yeah, have you found anything that you have found helps when you're feeling low? Have you found a kind of so this is just holding a can of Red Bull up to the okay, no, that's your voice. Yeah, well, I was drinking Negronis last night, and usually alcohol is not the answer. Like almost always alcohol is not the answer, but last night it was actually pretty good. I just had one, and then I had lots of water, and woke up feeling better, so that's good. But no,
I am finding, for me, that one of the things that's really beneficial for me is being honest enough with my wife that I can say, I'm going to go and take half an hour, I'm going to go and take an hour. And normally what I'll do in that time is exercise. Yeah. And again, for me, I think possibly in terms like biochemical level, I'm used to beating the crap out of my body and getting all of those like gym endorphins, and I've been running and my body aches and I can feel every muscle. And if I don't get that for a bit, then I feel very wrong, and also it helps me feel okay about the fact that probably my other vice, now that the restrictions have been limited, is snacking and food and absolutely ploughing it in. And so my balancing act is like, okay, I normally can eat what I want, as we've said on this podcast. You know, you can eat whatever the fuck you want when you work in forest school because you are burning everything off. But now being like, okay, you're not doing that, so at least try and maintain a bit of that.
Yeah.
And I think that, and also, so I personally, I've been very lucky because at the moment I am still very new to being a director of the FSA, and so I have had some projects there that have kept me busy. In that exact way of like, I'm not doing any work for my own company, but I can tick all those mental boxes doing a job over there. And also I am I think I don't want to offend anybody, I'm pretty sure I'm the youngest director by some way. And so I've had quite a few phone calls with people who it's been reassuring to talk to. It's almost like talking to older generations and going, is it going to be okay? And they're all, you know, they go, oh, I set the FSA up, or actually I invented forests, and like, so people who have more experience than I do have been very reassuring and have helped pick me up. And I'm trying as well to keep in contact with people that I might not have kept in contact with before, old uni friends, or stuff like that you actually go, I probably should talk to those dickheads a bit. And then you do, and you go, oh, yeah, dickheads. So
and they're all listening today. So hi, dickheads.
I mean, there's some joy to be had, isn't there? Find the joy in it. Find the joy of an elderly person trying to join your Zoom meeting. Can your granny do Zoom? Can you get, or having a FaceTime conversation with your parents' foreheads, because that's all they can manage on the screen. And you've just got to laugh at that silly little stuff, haven't you?
Yeah.
I think I've lost all concept of days. Somebody said to me the other day, do you want to do that on Monday? And I asked them how many sleeps it was, because that's how I'm judging things now.
Yeah. I definitely think exercise is important. And what you were saying about trying to carve out time where you're alone is so important. And I kind of feel guilty asking for it. And then when I do it, I'm like, oh yeah, that was definitely worth it. Even if I piss somebody off by going, I'm not going to be here now, I'm going to leave for a bit. And everyone's like, you'll be a better human being.
Well,
on the other side, it's always worth it.
There was I can reassure everybody now, so that because the start of this anecdote is very grim, but it get better. So there's been a rise in domestic abuse numbers and all this stuff. So the police have issued a statement saying that if you have a row with your partner, going for a drive to cool down is a perfectly legitimate reason to go for a drive. You will not be stopped. And so if anybody's feeling stressed, just go for a drive. It's perfectly all right.
Just walk out. Yeah.
Just walk out. Just walk out. Just walk out.
I went for a little. I'm rubbish at running. I used to be all right. Now I'm rubbish. But I went for a little run a couple of nights ago, and it was about 8 o'clock, I think, or 7:45. And just went up the hill behind my house, and it happened to be the time when all the ravens were going to bed, which I've never been out at that time, and so they were all saying goodnight to each other, and I had no idea that's kind of where they hung out at night time, but I found their secret place, and so I had to just like stop and just listen, because they were just making that raven cronking mad sound, but like hundreds of them all at once. And we've got one raven local to us which has clearly heard a telephone quite a lot, and so its call goes it's like a phone call. It does it like an impression of a phone call. It took us ages to work out what it was. It's definitely not a pheasant, and it was in amongst all those going on, and I was just like, wow, this is so cool.
So what is your plan now for, I presume you now need to get your own back because the ravens have been destroying your house in some way now that you know where their house is?
No, it's the crows that are destroying my house. I don't know where the crows live. I think the crows live.
Crows are just ravens' lackeys. I reckon ravens are the masterminds, and crows are just like, yeah, boss, whatever. We'll go get that house.
My latest thing, because they're still like smashing against the windows in the morning, but they are also eating all of the window seals. So I have tried to smear some washing up liquid on the window seals to make it taste disgusting. I was going to do bleach first of all, and I was like, no, I don't actually want to kill them. I don't want to make them sick. I just want to make it like not taste nice. I'm sure there's something else that you can coat the rubbery bits of your windows with, but I've gone for fairy liquid. So next time it really rains, I'm going to have like lovely lathery bubbly windows. But yeah, that's my latest. And also I've ordered a because apparently like hanging dead crows from the windows, like if I spoke to a pest control guy, I'm not going to shoot the crows, but he was like, oh no, I don't do that, like my mate does it, but I wouldn't ever do it because they're so intelligent and they mate for life and all the rest of it. But if you're going to do it, you have to kill a couple and then hang them from your house as a warning to the other crows to stop them doing it. I was like, no. And then I researched like fake ones, so dead fake crows, and apparently it does work. And you can get them like on the internet, but mostly in America. I don't know why. So I have ordered like a Halloween prop fake crow thing. I think it's a fake raven to hang from the windows, and then I realized that it's like coming from China. I shouldn't have bought it because it's not an essential item, and I'm putting like the postal service at risk delivering this freaking fake Halloween raven to my house. And secondly, it's not going to come till like September or something because it's coming from China, and it's coming from China. So thirdly,
well, can I add another one to your list then? Because you are creating some incredible. I mean, okay, 10 out of 10 for not killing a crow, 0 out of 10 for definitely causing emotional abuse, right? You are definitely going. Here's some trauma memories for you guys. Just even though it's not real, you are making.
It's not even going to work. They're going to look at it and go, I don't know what she thinks she's doing, but she's got a Halloween weird thing. Like, no. But they're causing me emotional abuse right now. They are.
You got to fit your own gas mask.
Exactly.
Okay, right. I'm going to go and cook some pizzas now.
Delicious.
I will chat to you at some point soon.
Yeah.
Cool. All right, mate. Bye.
If you like this podcast and want to support more episodes, you can donate through Patreon. Visit patreon.com/Children of the Forest to show your support for the Forest School podcast.